Thanks everybody for joining today. This is the 11th class of Leadership ITE final presentations. We have 5 great presentations that we're excited to share with you today. A few housekeeping items. There will be 15-minute presentations with a 5-minute Q&A at the end. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. You can put it in the chat during the presentation or at the end. Either works. While you're not, so for all of our guests, please turn off your camera and stay on mute. And then everybody in the class will have their computers off or their cameras off and be muted when they're not presenting. Jumping right in, group 1, In the Right Mind, will give their presentation.
Great. I'd like to start by sharing a story with you all today. Imagine that you're thriving at a well-known company. You've earned the respect of your colleagues and have been given responsibilities to match. Despite the long hours, you believe in what you do and truly enjoy the work most days. You've taken on new responsibilities, yet other departments and clients continue to call on you for things that really should now be handled by junior staff. Individually, each of these requests feels small, but some days it feels like you're being asked to do the job of 2 people, and it's starting to feel like too much. Then you receive a call that your cousin's cancer has returned. She's only 39, and her treatment options are limited. Work demands continue, but your mind is elsewhere. You're struggling to keep up with personal and professional stress, but you don't confide in anyone at work. You've worked hard to earn your position and don't want to risk damaging your reputation, so you struggle in silence. A few weeks later, while traveling to your cousin's funeral, you have time to reflect on how life has been going for you recently and resolve that it's time to make some changes. This was my 2019. I would not have identified myself as struggling with mental health then, and honestly, still feel hesitant today about putting that label on myself. Perhaps I've internalized a stigma around mental health issues, or perhaps I minimize my own experience because others have it much worse. Either way, now I see that this is a normal part of the human experience, and there is nothing to be ashamed about. While you may not have experienced these specific events, many of you can probably relate to the feelings. Often referred to as stress or burnout, the reality is that these experiences impact our mental health. In fact, 36% of adults in the US felt their mental health suffer because of demands at work in just this last year. How many of you have felt this way? What about your employees or fellow ITE members? Mental health encompasses a range of conditions, including depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, substance abuse, and yes, burnout. I was feeling overwhelmed and did not have the tools to properly combat the stress I was experiencing. So I ran. I quit my job in search of a fresh start. I am an ITE member that has experienced this, and I am certainly not alone. Have you thought about how many people in your organization may be struggling with burnout or other mental health conditions? Well, we believe that ITE can help. I am Teresa Rolfs, and along with Ashley, Chris, Shraddha, and Serini, we are team In the Right Mind. And we're here to talk to you today about mental health and how ITE can equip our transportation industry with solutions to face the mental health crisis.
Yeah, so Teresa mentioned a few mental health statistics, and I'm going to get into a few more that really get to the heart of the problem. In 2023, 69% of mental health leaves of absences were taken by women. How many women are in your office? In a survey we reviewed, 84% of respondents stated that workplace conditions contributed to a mental health issue. It is estimated that annually the US economy loses $47.6 billion in lost productivity due to mental health absences. Can your organization afford these losses? In another survey, 81% of respondents stated that they look for a workplace that supports their mental health. With all of the challenges in hiring in our industry, can you afford to not implement a mental health program? And finally, in a survey, 50% of respondents stated that they left a previous role due to mental health. Can you afford to lose these folks? When we get to the construction industry, the statistics are so much worse. Suicides in the construction industry are 4 times the national average and 5 times the fatalities due to suicides are 5 times all other fatalities combined. This is a huge issue in our industry and we can do better. So how can we do better? Well, if ITE is able to provide mental health resources to its members, it would have a huge impact. In fact, 50% of employees are likely to report fewer symptoms when organizations have mental health programs. In a study by Deloitte, it found that organizations implementing mental health programs saw a 28% increase in productivity and a 31% decrease in absenteeism. The American Psychiatric Association found a 48% increase in employee engagement in organizations that implemented mental health programs. And the Center for Mental Health in Workplaces found that for every dollar invested in a mental health program, organizations saw a 400% return in employee health and productivity. So this is the way forward, and ITE providing mental health resources to its members can help so many in our industry. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to discuss how ITE can help move this initiative forward.
Thanks, Chris. Before we can really begin to understand how mental health affects ITE, we need to remind ourselves the foundation of our organization. It's our members. ITE is 18,000 members and growing, and has a unique opportunity to bring awareness to mental health in our industry, as well as begin the conversation that it's okay not to be okay. Whether you're a younger member or more established in your career as a professional member, mental health affects us all in different ways. So to gain some perspective, let's take a step back. Who are our ITE members? As you see these photos scrolling, you may see some familiar faces, and you may even spot yourself as a cameo as well. This is the core of ITE. These are our members. And mental health affects us regardless of your age, stage of life, experience within the industry, or experiences within our IT community. Who within ITE can provide guidance? Our amazing IT HQ staff and iBod help lead our organization through organizational changes, as well as establishing policies, as well as our leadership within the councils and committees. Our employer councils have a unique opportunity to help us dive into unique experiences from different sectors, while others can help lead technical projects that can help really increase awareness within mental health. Now, the biggest question of the day is the importance to ITE membership. Mental health is important to our individual members, but it's vital to our businesses and agencies who support and sponsor our organization. With mental health related leaves of absences increasing 300% between 2017 and 2023, it's now more important than ever for us to invest in our employees' mental health. Creating a supportive environment that values mental health can lead to an increase in employee safety, a reduction in overall turnover for organizations, lower healthcare costs because our mental health is strongly tied to our physical health and well-being, increase in productivity and profitability, and overall satisfied employees are just healthier, happier, and more fulfilled. So now I'm going to pass the baton to Sharada of how can ITE help.
that we have established the why, let's look at the how. We have categorized how ITE can contribute into two parts: a toolbox for small organizations and an education and outreach. The first one was identified when we interviewed transportation industry professionals as a part of this project to understand the state of mental health awareness in our industry. It became clear to us that bigger companies are often able to provide resources to address these concerns. However, small and medium-sized companies aren't always able to, which essentially transfers a lot of responsibility to your manager's understanding and empathizing with the mental health cause. Therefore, we are proposing that ITE create a toolbox which would typically contain one-pager technical briefs that are not overwhelming to the reader, while can also provide some useful guidance. This toolbox can address ITE membership in different phases of their careers, whether they're young professionals, supervisors, or project managers. I want to point out just a few examples of what this could look like. The first one, to provide a low-cost solution for employers: provision of flexible work hours, accommodation of remote work, how to utilize sick leave, among others. For our younger engineers and members to not get a burnout from our profession, we can have something to identify if they are feeling the burnout, how to set boundaries, and how to maintain a better work-life balance. Something else could be to have supervisor training that can talk about how supervisors can do mental health check-ins with their employees, how to recognize signs of mental health distress, among others. These are just some initial ideas with hopes that this page can be forever growing. We will be listing out these ideas in a little more detail in our memo, which will be a part of our final report as well. We now want to move over to a list of things ITE can do in terms of education and outreach for promoting mental health awareness. As a part of a deliverable for this class project, we would like to submit an article on increasing mental health awareness in our industry in hopes that this can be published in the ITE journal. As you may know, your support is crucial. We also want this topic to continue to be in our professionals' minds, so having periodic blogs, canned presentations in various ITE meetings would be instrumental in increasing awareness. The next is, can ITE councils and committees do something that can bring in a broader systemic change? I want to give just one example. Can employer councils work towards creating a roadmap on how to change contracting policies for organizations to favor firms that have stronger mental health policies in place to support their employees in some form or other? We currently do something similar for minority women-owned businesses. Can this be extended to some other industries as well? Lastly, another idea that we got from our interviews, maybe ITE's e-community can be utilized to form a support group for anyone that may be struggling with mental health and are just looking for that little bit of support and encouragement. It may be something as simple as someone hearing another person out and just saying that it's okay to not be okay. There are a lot of different ways that we in ITE can support our members. These are just some ideas to get the ball rolling. These ideas are discussed in more detail in our memo, again, which will be a part of our final deliverable.
Thank you for reviewing that, Shraddha. Remember that story that I shared with you at the beginning of our presentation? Well, in retrospect, I wonder what would have happened if I knew then what I know now about mental health. Maybe I would have found a therapist, or perhaps employed some better techniques to combat burnout. Had the tools we talked about today been in place then, I might have even stayed with my previous employer. Hopefully, we've established the importance of talking openly about mental health and have demonstrated the need for ITE to carry this cause forward. We are asking ITE to support mental health awareness and for one or more councils, or committees to champion this cause. Thank you for your time and support. And I believe we are open to take questions now.
Thank you. In the right mind. Again, if you would like to put questions in the chat. We are ready to share them and start a great conversation. My first question is, did you get any other stories as you were investigating this? You know, Teresa, that was similar to your story, or some other things that just made this really hit home for a lot of you?
Yes, many. We conducted, I don't even remember how many interviews, Shada, maybe you remember.
Kevin?
Thank you. Several interviews with leaders throughout the industry and leaders within ITE, many of whom are on the call today. And almost everybody had very moving stories. And the original plan actually was to share someone else's story, but I was feeling moved after speaking to so many people, and that it would be better to share a personal story and demonstrate that vulnerability is hopefully a small step in reducing the stigma. And it happens to everyone in some way or another.
I think we all felt pretty passionate about this topic just because it is so personal, and I think everyone kind of has a connection, either direct or indirect, to mental health challenges, either in their workplace or outside. So we really felt strongly about pushing this topic forward.
I have a question I'll jump in on. So you have a lot of great suggestions for recommendations for next steps. How would you prioritize them? What would you suggest doing first?
I can start off. I think one of the easiest thing to do is first to get into the ITE journal, because that does reach our entire membership. So that could get us started. And I think to have more discussion with district section or international ITE to get a time slot or a place for it in their meetings would help increase this awareness into everyone getting impacted in person at these meetings.
And like we said, we're looking for a champion from the councils and committees. So if you're on this call and you heard this presentation and hopefully it moved you in a way, or you felt, a personal relationship with it, if you have any ideas of a specific avenue that you want to take with it, please reach out to anybody in our group, reach out to anybody within Leadership ITE, HQ staff can help direct you to us, and we can share more information that will get posted later as well.
Great. And we got a couple comments in the chat, or I won't necessarily read Lindsay's comment, but she has a question about the journal as well as Steve. So maybe we can wrap these together. You mentioned the journal. So what would be the focus of the article? Is it awareness, tools, a call to action? And then Steve followed up with kind of the same thing. Would your focus be on one aspect of mental health or at the broad level? So what were y'all thinking for that article focus?
Yeah, so I think the articles kind of expand on what our presentation was. We just got so much information, we couldn't fit it all into it. So we did a literature review. That's where a lot of the stats that I discussed came up. So we were going to get a little bit more in depth, but I think the real focus is really just on how ITE can go forward with this topic, just on more suggestions on and getting into a little bit more detail on the toolbox that Shraddha outlined. So kind of providing some background and then suggestions on next steps.
To add to what Chris said, this is almost like the first step that we see happening. There has not been much of a discussion or awareness about this before, and this is a serious topic, but also a very complex topic. So the biggest first task would be to bring an awareness for that, and once we start talking about it, which is what we did today, we started today, that itself will be the first step or the second step towards the ultimate goal about trying to get a more more an environment, a work environment that is good for the workers and for the people there. So this is just to get the awareness going. So I've focused that as the primary thing, and it's the low-hanging fruit also. So to get the discussion started.
Time.
Thanks. So you can keep asking questions to group one for future conversations at annual meeting. But we'll move on to the next conversation. The next presentation is group two. Let's investigate the engagement.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Nujumi Aneskaheza. I'm here with the rest of my team today, Erica, Brandon, Ashley, and Sarah. We're going to talk to you all about investigating engagement within ITE. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to ask you all to picture a scenario, and it's one which I think many of us will be familiar with. So you've just walked confidently through the doors of an event. You've checked in, you've got that name tag displayed proudly on your chest. You look around the room. There are dozens of people in small groups. They're chatting, joking, seem friendly, but you don't see a single familiar face. Think to yourself, wow, this is intimidating. That initial glow of confidence maybe begins to fade just a little bit, but you know, you're a motivated person, so you're going to muster up the courage and go and talk to some folks. And just as you suspected, everyone is friendly enough and welcoming, but you just really can't seem to relate to any of the conversations. So naturally, what do you start asking yourself? Do I belong here? Is this the organization for me? And you decide, maybe I'll go home a little early. No one will notice if I slip out. The next time this event rolls around, how likely is it that you'll attend again? It's not a great picture, right? Now, that's an extreme example, but let's think about the ITE that we want to have. We want an ITE that every member walks into an event and feels like they belong there. We want them to feel like they have a place in our organization. We want them to feel like they are part of the conversation, and we want them to return next time and keep contributing. At the end of the day, we want them to feel engaged. What does it mean to engage our members? Through communication with our mentors, we learned that ITE is early in the process of procuring a new association management software, or AMS for short. Our ask as part of this project is that member engagement functionality be incorporated into this new AMS system with the purpose of enhancing that engagement at all levels of the organization. The overarching goal here is that we want a clearer picture of who ITE is. And how do we envision doing this? Well, in the back and forth of developing this idea, we started to identify two discrete data themes, if you will. One, the characteristics of those who are attending the events. Think planner, engineer, young member, public, private, student. And two, details of the events themselves. So in-person or virtual, social, technical session, so on. At a high level, we're looking to marry up these two pieces to better understand our members and how they engage with ITE. Now, to get a better idea of how this tool could be put to use at all levels of the organization, I'll pass it off to my teammates, beginning with Sarah.
So at the headquarters level, as many people know, the most of the member involvement is at the section level, at the base of the ITE ladder. It's hard for headquarters to get a good picture of what's happening at the base of the ladder, given that there's so many districts and so many sections. So with this information, these two pieces of the member data and event data pulled together, it could help headquarters have a better idea of how to help and support the districts on the section level. And it can help better inform any future initiatives that headquarters is looking to do. We have kind of a snapshot here showing the breakdown of meeting attendance at a section meeting of public versus private. So we can already see some information like that. So then at the district level, the main event at the district level is typically the annual meeting, which is a multi-day, multi-session event. And with most of these conferences going paperless using apps like Whova, that creates new opportunities for this. I'll put the spotlight on Southern District for this example. We've been using the Whova app at our annual meetings and using QR codes, individualized QR codes on the name tags to scan session attendance for PDH tracking purposes. But with that member data added in, we could potentially see how many planners are attending each session, how many young members, how many, private company attendees and stuff. So you can get an idea to help future LACs and agenda committees that are planning those annual meetings to plan even better meetings to make sure that everyone's feeling included, that there's content there for everybody. We show here a snapshot example of what that could look like of all the different sessions that each attendee went to. So you can see, which sessions were better attended by planners versus engineers, so that they can make sure that the next meeting, if they realize there's not too many planners, they can adjust for that. So from here, we'll go to the section level, and Ashley will explain that.
Thanks, Sarah. So as Sarah previously mentioned, the section level is really that boots on the ground level of ITE. This is where our members are typically going to be the most engaged within the organization. And being able to understand and track events that have successful member turnout, topics that are heavily attended, social events where maybe a younger member is bringing a non-ITE coworker, technical tours that highlight a new facility in your community. All of these pieces combined really create the experience at the section level for ITE. And by tracking the engagement, ITE can gain insight on what's happening directly at the section level. Being able to understand, which members are engaged, and probably more importantly, which members are not engaged, is going to be a key component for success when it comes to providing the best experience, especially at that local level for ITE members and increasing their participation within the organization.
And now talking about member level and improving member experience is what drives membership. Thinking back to Adam's story at the start, the way the member feels before, at, and after the event is what is going to encourage or discourage them to promote ITE and ultimately to drive membership. And when we can measure that and measure the engagement of those experiences, then we can improve them. So if we can plan events with the help from data where members and guests feel comfortable and confident, they leave with a good impression, and most importantly, they leave with pride in membership. And pride, again, is what drives promotion and drives membership. So we're gonna take you on a little trip back up the ladder with our friend, our mythical friend, Sam. So Sam is a planner. He works in the public sector. He's a young member. He's new to ITE. He's been casually attending ITE section luncheons so far, and he's from St. Louis, Missouri.
So taking our man Sam here, we're going to kind of see ways that the section can get him involved and use the data to the benefit of the section. So, at the section level, the section is now able to recognize that, like Sam, they have a large number of younger members in their membership data that's been collected. And they may prioritize hosting a younger member social event, providing a way for the younger members to network. Section could also see that there's a high number of planners now within their section and create a transportation planning council to provide members like Sam a chance to have a larger voice to better engage and increase attendance of public employees, just like Sam, the section could provide a discounted rate for their monthly luncheons. These are all examples of items and topics that the section could work to prioritize to not only better understand their members, but also the events through this data collection and increase the engagement at that section level.
So at the district level, similar to the section level, the district sees they have, quite a few members like Sam that are young planners working at public agencies. So as they're planning that annual meeting, they know they have to have a planning track for their technical sessions to make sure planners feel welcome. They decide to host a young member event at the start of the annual meeting to help the young members come in and meet each other and get a sense of community, at least amongst themselves. But then they also offer ribbons to put on your name tags. So if there's first time attendee, if they want to identify themselves, they can add that ribbon. And then, the seasoned veterans of that conference, will go up and introduce themselves and start the conversation and take away that kind of awkwardness that, that we've all felt, similar to that story that Adam told. So then going from there up to the headquarters level, headquarters can now see with these two pieces of information, all the different types of events and the different types of members that are attending those events. They can try to host more webinars to attract more young members or keep those young members engaged and to keep those planners engaged. And then the IT virtual conference, they'll make sure that there's a planning track. And then the IT annual meeting continue to do events like the IT Tiger Challenge to keep those young members involved and have them involved before the meeting even starts. So with this insight of Sam's involvement from the section district to, Sam attending his first international annual meeting, at the headquarters level, they've been able to give better support along the way to help Sam climb that ITE ladder.
So to bring it all together, like Adam mentioned, what we're really asking for is a clearer picture of engagement in ITE because we want to be able to measure our success. And to measure our success, we've got to have good information that's fed by high quality data that has a good, solid connection between what sometimes might seem like disparate data sources. We've talked extensively through our teamwork and with our mentors about what that means in terms of user profile data, in terms of registration data, and which to focus on. But really, the answer is that we've got to focus on both. So our ask of the Board of Direction is, as you go through the scope and specifications on the association management software procurement, that both sides of that same equation are taken into account and are addressed meaningfully, so that we have good data quality tools and that we have good access to registration interfaces or expectations of the district, section, and chapter leadership that can be married back to that user data. So with that, I think we are ready for questions.
Thank you. Let's investigate. Again, feel free to put your questions in the chat. My first question is with the ladder, sort of in comparison to a career ladder, and some say it's not really a ladder necessarily, it's more like a jungle gym. Can you talk about sort of how people can kind of build their own experience that works well for them, that doesn't necessarily fit into a specific trajectory?
I can start. I know that we've talked about where is the sort of closest level of engagement and the areas where maybe the most meaningful tweaks can be made. And we sort of settled on the section level engagement being the place where there are opportunities to to quickly shape and respond to how that engagement might change as it's being measured. That doesn't mean that any insights that might be gained from the tool on the section level wouldn't be applicable to districts or to the ITE International. It just means that for us, I think that's probably the sort of lab of experimentation that those insights can be a little bit more quickly gained.
Great, thanks. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we got one from Steve. Are there steps that can be taken outside of waiting for the new AMS? For example, is there data that sections and districts already collected that could be shared?
So I think that's sort of the part of the having the event data. So if we figure the sections can kind of start with that. And then once we have the member data, or there's other ways that we can, we talked about having sort of like a member survey as a register to just say like, are you, an engineer, planner, young member, that type of thing. But with those pieces, I think having the event data at the section level as well, they can start collecting data to figure out the best types of events to host to keep their members engaged.
I would add to that the part of the ask is to have some set expectations on what data is being collected so that we have meaningful comparisons. I think, each section has some level of understanding of how their membership responds to different event types, but to have something that's shareable from one section to another across different divisions within the organization probably requires a little more standardization of what's being collected.
All right. There's one from Colleen here. I'll read. Can you share a little bit about the tool that we had talked about so that across entities, there is some comparable data being collected?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think the idea is that we would have essentially a standard set of questions or data that would be collected, or we would recommend to be collected for events, which would then allow that comparison across different sections, districts, etc. And having that list of kind of standardized questions or standardized data to acquire for each event is something that we could start broadcasting out earlier before this AMS is even in place. We've thought about including in our final deliverable some of those. Here are those questions we think would be really valuable to ask day one, and because that's the key. Is we would notice there wasn't a great standardization across everyone, so it was hard to make comparisons, and that's where we kind of arrived at. We need to at least start with that step. Let's standardize what we're asking, so then we can make comparisons.
The next question is, as a committee chair, it's always been challenging for me to try to connect my committee with districts and sections. Any recommendation?
I can take this one, and also Sarah, if you want to read the next one, I can do them both together.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do both at the same time.
Yeah, because we're at 5 minutes now.
Okay, so and it scrolled down really fast. Okay, having data is great. Have you thought about a post-event survey that asks people how they felt at the meeting? Did they feel welcome, meet a new contact, etc.?
So these are both really great comments and things that we deliberated on extensively. And one of our first big discussions was about the idea that, and this has already come up, that everyone really does do it differently, and how do we bring it all together? And it is, this is all kind of forms the next step of this process, and getting it all into one place and then using the data is going to be kind of the key initiative here. And having, Lindsay mentioned having a survey, we also discussed that, and these are really great suggestions to kind of to add a little bit more content rather than, you know, things like, are you a planner or an engineer, are you public or private, but to say, you know, how did you feel? Was this a welcoming environment? If you're a first timer, all of those kinds of things, because ultimately, and something that we've talked about through this whole leadership IT process, is this human factor, and that's what's gonna make people remember things, and that's what's gonna keep people coming back.
Thanks. Let's investigate. And again, if you want to keep putting your questions in the chat, group 1 is responding to theirs, and you can kind of keep the conversation going while we move on to group 3, Ignite.
Sarah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we cannot hear the audio though.
Thank you.
Still can't hear the audio. You might have to stop sharing and share again with the audio.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay.
International. Hi, I'm Tyler Hartman, and I'm currently one of the co-chairs for the Young Member Committee at the ITE International level. So got started back in 2017, you know, going to a conference, just getting your hand dragged, saying, hey, you're going to come with me. Okay, didn't think much of it. Went, met a few people, had a little bit of a good time, but I wasn't sure about it. I started really connecting with people, starting to understand that there are others like me who get excited over signals, get excited over different little things that you see on the roadway. I mean, it's always cool to find other people who want to talk the talk about that, because no one else really gets it but us.
When I speak to the most engaged members of ITE, their stories very often start the same way, with someone invited me to a meeting. The part of ITE that keeps them coming back and volunteering is the feeling of community that's been created within the membership and is so much a part of ITE's values. By participating in ITE, they have the opportunity to make a difference in their profession and ITE, but they get that sense of community back as well. Engaging younger members as they join and begin their journey within the transportation profession is so important. Younger members are the lifeblood of any professional association, and bringing them into the ITE community is how we will grow and maintain ITE over time. This is why we are so often talking about the importance of fortifying the younger member pipeline, in particular as they progress from student members to younger members. We've spoken to younger members across the organization and to ITE members involved in supporting and leading younger member committees as part of our work. Today, my colleague Addie and I are going to share what we've learned, the work we've prepared, and some potential future work. We have 3 specific asks of this group. First, we're asking that all of us start to consistently use the term younger member. Secondly, and this is of ITE staff, we've provided a possible updated organization of what is now called the Young Professionals webpage. We're asking that you update the webpage to reflect this new structure. And third, of the ITE Younger Member Committee, that you take and maintain the updated document we prepared with best practices for younger member committees to provide guidance for the leadership of younger member committees at the district and section level. ITE is already providing strong support for younger members, a lot of which has been developed through previous leadership ITE groups and through the ongoing efforts of the International Board of Direction, ITE staff, and the ITE Younger Member Committee. Examples include discounted membership dues and registration rates for events, the work that the ITE Younger Member Committee is doing to prepare webinars geared to younger members and featuring younger member speakers, the Younger Member Monday Initiative, the Younger Member Annual Meeting Challenge, the establishment of younger member committees within almost every district across ITE at the district and section levels, and providing the opportunity for younger members to participate in councils and committees, and also inviting them in to do so. Our work was intended to build on that foundation and also to support ITE's recently adopted strategic plan, which highlights the need to engage younger members in a variety of different ways, including supporting members as they transition from student to professional membership, collaborating with student chapters and classes of leadership ITE to advance transformative topics, providing more opportunities to engage and involve younger members at all levels of ITE, and developing transformative topic materials and educational opportunities specifically for younger members and students. We interviewed the leaders of 7 district and section younger member committees and asked them about the successes and challenges they face in their region. As you can imagine, we heard some great stories about how one section is having success maintaining connections with new grads because they've got a member on their younger member committee from each of the local colleges. This person acts as an ambassador to maintain engagement of student members. But another section is having a harder time maintaining those connections because so many of the local students move out of the section for work once they graduate. We heard about how in-person events are better for community building and networking, but virtual events get better attendance. Our young member committees are running really interesting and diverse events, including study groups for certifications, resume workshops, and other more technical sessions. But the younger members really value the social events and the opportunity to network with both other younger members and with more seasoned professionals. The value of using ambassadors to engage younger members within large organizations was also highlighted in our discussions. We heard about how the ITE website has good information for younger members, but it can be overwhelming and hard to navigate, especially for new members. The e-community is a great tool for technical discussions, but not as good of a tool for social networking. We heard that younger members use different social media platforms that are evolving very quickly and hard to keep up with. And finally, we heard how they all have room to grow and improve their own younger member committees. Most of the people we spoke to asked us to circle back with them with our recommendations for their consideration. Based on this feedback and with input from folks we've been talking to about this topic on the One ITE Committee, the ITE Younger Member Committee, ITE staff, and the International Board of Direction, we've come up with solutions that my colleague Addie is going to tell you more about.
From our discussions with members from younger committees, we bundled their feedback into 3 main areas, starting with student to professional member pipeline. Some of the solutions for those are section sponsored senior events, student to professional mentorship. The next point is concise, clear, and visually appealing communication. Solution for that is streamlining messaging for younger members, update best practices document. And the last one is IT website resources. And that the solution to that is to update the young member webpage. Also having student to professional pipeline is important because what we saw from interviews is that we lose a lot of IT members in the transitioning from college to the professional field. Like in college, they're really active, but as soon as they start a new job, it's stressful. They're figuring out how to, be in the professional field. We lose a lot of IT members. So some of the dedicated end of the year student professional initiatives could be a section sponsored senior event or student to professional mentorship. So that way they get more involved, they get a role, and they want to stay involved as they transition to their professional setting. We also asked for the best practices document to remain updated. Our group did update it. It's going to be part of one of our deliverables. And this is going to provide guidance for district and section younger member committees. This document touches on creating a committee, communication, hosting events, developing ambassadors, mentoring, and engaging with younger members in other activities. So it's a really important document for the committees and districts. We did mention about the younger member webpage. This is how it currently looks like. It has very valuable information that's really needed, but it could be very busy, especially for new members that don't know exactly what they're looking for. And it would be better to improve it and make it a little bit more simple. And this is a website update that the group worked on. It still has the information that the previous website had, but we're adding more images. We have the collapsible feature to make it more easy. If you don't want to read that part of the section, we close it. And we have all the links on the left side, on the right side there for quick access. Other recommended initiatives are digital engagement strategic plan, especially for trying to target the younger members. They're really active on social media. These are some of the examples out there. These could change a lot. They're always changing, and ITE is currently not really up to date with these social media. So it'd be nice if even on just one of these, we could get ITE to be more active, and that way it'd be easier to grab younger members. And also the e-community update. It has a lot of valuable information, but again, it could be a little too busy for new members, especially younger members, and we want it to be easy for them to find what they need and not lose them while they're trying to figure out where to go. And for the plan, we have so based on the 3 solutions we mentioned, the first one is using the term younger member. That's something that everyone could work as a whole, as a group. The second one, update the website, that'll be on IT staff. And the third one is to update the best practices document. It's like I said, we currently worked on an update for it, and it just has to remain updated. So that would be probably something that the younger member committee could work on. Maybe like a live document, so it'd be easier to keep updated, because it'll be beneficial for like the district committees and the section committees to have that available.
I've met really like a lot of awesome people over the years. I've built a lot of friendships, and that's one of the things I really love is hearing people say, "Hey, you know what? You inspired me to get more involved."
So that was just a Tyler's clips, and on behalf of our group, we want to say thank you for your time. And if you have some questions, this would be the time.
Thanks, Ignite. I have a question to start out with. Do you find that when did you look into the reasons that students maybe didn't re-up their membership when they become professionals? Was it sort of, they did it in college, but they're expecting a totally different experience once they get into the professional field, or the cost is a barrier, or they don't really have support from their companies? Did you look into that at all?
I know from one of the interviews I did with our local section, one of the issues was just that they didn't really have the resources or the tools to continue the membership. or they just simply their emails changed in the midst of, trying to find a job and graduate and get all that settled. Once they actually transitioned to their new career, they were kind of just focused on that. And I think a lot of them may not really understood how beneficial being a part of a professional organization would be early on in their career. So they really, unless they had people on their job encouraging them to do so, a lot of them didn't just outright take that initiative, even if they were a part of the collegiate chapter.
And a follow-up, did you find that, if you've looked into this data, that it was a fall off in membership from like really active student chapters more so than it was just across the board?
I'm not sure for some of the other sections that we interviewed, but I think it was just overall like that transition that seniors going into their career fair. It wasn't we didn't notice them, continuing their membership. It was more so, oh, once I, get to my job or wherever I end up, I may, join later on. But no, I think there was definitely a drop off. But once they either reached out or they were looking for, younger organizations to join, then they found that as an opportunity to come back into the fold.
To add for the previous question, what Amy said, the person I interviewed mentioned that maybe a lot of times the younger members don't feel that it's going to be worth their time, especially with the commitment of like the new job, all the stress of that. They don't think it's going to be worth their time doing it. So if we kind of reached out to them and show them that it's networking, and not just that, but also like fun events for them to build community, that would be a way to reach them. But a lot of times they feel it's not worth their time at that point.
And I think just to mention the success of the existing younger member committees under the sections, one of the highlights that I heard a lot was that the younger member committee events, they were a good entry for the younger members because they were less intimidating than going to like a professional meeting or like the monthly meeting where there are more seasoned professionals, and it kind of feels like everybody already knows each other. But when they saw the e-blast with, oh, we're having a social at the local bar or a bowling night, that kind of felt less intimidating, and it allowed them to feel more comfortable coming into the fold and getting to know people within ITE.
And we've got a question from Steve. Do you have suggestions for young professionals who might be overwhelmed with their new careers? How can you attract them to stay engaged with ITE, even if someone isn't encouraging them?
A good question, Steve. I think we've covered a lot of different things through our discussions with other younger member committees, and this idea of having ambassadors that make themselves available within larger organizations to encourage younger members to get involved is really helpful. They can act as guides as well, and I think that's where we come to with this whole idea of updating the website. If a young member says, I want to get involved with ITE, but I'm not sure what's in it for me, and they go to the young professionals page today, there's so much good information there, but it's just we heard from people, it's just overwhelming. It's too much. I don't know where to start. And so that's part of what we've tried to do by streamlining that page, is to not overwhelm them so much and give them a better idea of where to start. But I think that ambassador piece is sort of the personal touch. That's the digital touch. And then the personal touch is getting somebody who reaches out to them and says, hey, you want to get involved in ITE? Let me show you how. And we go back to the beginning where we said, for most of us, we got involved because somebody said to us, come to a meeting with me. And there's just no substitute for that.
Great. And I know we had a couple of questions in the chat. I heard Kathy call time. So For the sake of that, if y'all want to check in the chat, there were some comments and questions on where you think social media would be used best. Because in agreement with Colleen, she had mentioned definitely LinkedIn and Instagram have been growing a lot. And we saw those on your screen. So if you have any comments and feedback on what you saw for Colleen, as well as Joe there. So I'll pass it back to Sarah.
Thanks, Ignite. Next up, we have Group 4, Leadership 101.
It says that I cannot share when somebody else is sharing. There we go. All right, I would like to start this presentation by taking us back to January of 2024, which was the first Leadership ITE Class of 2024 face-to-face session. At this meeting, Light was given the opportunity to chat one-on-one with the executive director and the current ITE president. We asked Steve and John what their biggest concerns were for ITE and the transportation industry at large. Their response: workforce shortages. This motivated us to explore solutions that may help to increase or retain the number of professionals within the transportation community. The idea of workforce shortages, particularly in STEM fields, it's not a new issue. For many, many years, the engineering education community has studied what has become known as the leaky pipeline, which is the observed phenomenon that STEM fields are notorious at losing talented individuals at various stages through their educational process and their careers. Data that we found showed that of all the ninth graders in the 2008 to 2009 school year, just under 3/4 of those students decided to enroll in college, and ultimately less than 20% became STEM graduates 8 years later. Now, solutions for how to plug the leaky pipeline really depend on what part of the pipeline that you're focused on addressing. We chose to focus on solutions related to workforce retention because post-COVID-19, many industries, including transportation, are facing workforce shortages. Data out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that in April 2024, there are 1.7 million fewer Americans in the workplace than there were in February of 2020. There are many, many reasons around why we're facing such significant workplace retention issues, many of which are outside of the influence of professional organizations like ITE. But before I share with you our proposed solution for ITE and what we think they can do to help improve the workforce retention in the transportation sector, I want to pause and ask you to reflect on the following question. Have you ever left or thought about leaving a job because of a bad boss or manager? To share her experience, I'd like to invite my teammate Anjana Anvar to share her experience and how the management style she experienced influenced her mental health and workplace satisfaction.
Thank you, Rachel. So a few years ago, I worked with a manager who had led to a severe communication gap within the team. So the manager would attend all meetings alone and wouldn't involve anyone from the team with client discussions, which really meant we missed out a lot of crucial information. Our ideas and feedback weren't valued and we couldn't express suggestions to move projects forward. So this led to a communication gap and also to deliverables that often didn't meet client expectations. So this environment where I felt unheard and undervalued really caused a lot of stress and exhaustion. The constant tension even affected my family as I carried the work stress back home. So eventually the frustration led me to leave the company where I had spent a good amount of time, around 6 years. In contrast, however, my current position is a very different story. Here, the manager fosters a collaborative environment, and we are involved in important decisions such as hiring new young team members and also sometimes task load distributions. This really unique approach plays to our strength of the team and also helps to build a sense of trust and security. So experiencing such positive collaboration has been really transformative for me personally. And it's also shown that good management, often characterized by open communication and team involvement, fosters loyalty and job satisfaction. through the Light program, I really took courage during different sessions to revisit some of these situations and recognize the triggers of my stress and learn to better manage them. So this experience has really enforced my belief that I would prefer to stay with a company with a good manager any day.
Thanks for sharing your story, Anjana. So if you're like Anjana and you have thought about leaving a job or have left a job because of experience with bad management or a bad boss, you're not alone. A poll by Gallup showed that 75% of people that decided to leave a job voluntarily did so not because of the position itself, but because of their boss. And so there's a lot of truth in the quote that people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. Which leads up to our project, which we've called Leadership 101. Leadership 101 is an online training series that exposes technical professionals in the transportation industry to management skills that they may not be receiving elsewhere. I'm going to turn it over to Willie Ramon to talk about why we think ITE is the right organization to take on this challenge.
Thank you, Rachel. ITE is a great organization, has 3 core values: a technical expertise and training, membership, and organizational excellence. Within this, somehow ITE has identified a way to reach its members with a flagship program with Leadership ITE, and to make an effort to develop leaders in our organization. However, there is something that is missing. Part of that's missing is within the members itself, where our classical training as engineers does not historically provide the people management training that we need. We focus a lot on technical skills and training within school, and even after we get out of school, we do a lot of PDHs, and we have a lot of opportunity to increase our technical knowledge. And this is probably part of the reason why engineers and planners don't see the value in people management skills sometimes, and want to look into that. So we know that something is missing in our educational track, and that is management skill development. As participants in Leadership ITE, we are now aware of the importance of management skills. We know that it's important to develop those skills, and it'll help in our professional development. But what about everybody else? There are scattered opportunities that are provided by other institutions and organizations, but it's not a focused approach. What we'd like to do is suggest that ITE make management skill development and management skill training another pillar. Now, that isn't our ask today. We're not asking ITE to reconsider and adding a whole nother pillar, but in concept we are, because it's very important that as an organization, if the organization itself drives the point that management skill training is important, then its members will also see its importance. So we definitely want to start trying to close that gap. And we know that that gap exists. ITE has a lot of efforts in developing technical skills. There's a lot of efforts in that direction, but there's not, outside of Leadership ITE, there isn't that development, so to speak. And we know that with Leadership ITE, it is the right method, and it is the right intensity, and it's a robust program, and we know that's the right way for people to learn in that environment. So looking at Leadership IT itself, we are aware as the 11th class here that about only 1.5% of the membership of ITE have been trained through Leadership ITE. It's clearly not reaching enough people, but as I said before, it is the right environment. So what we're wanting to do is start pointing people towards the Leadership IT opportunity, so that more people can have access to these kinds of trainings. With that, I'll pass it back to Anjana.
So, given all the background by Rachel and Will, as a team, we started exploring the current efforts within ITE, and we did discover that the Professional Development Committee had conducted an international survey and gathered responses from various districts. One of the results of the survey is the availability of the technical resources and the webinars, basically the acknowledgement by the ITE members that it's one of the #1 benefits of being an ITE member. And one of the other results that also seemed advantageous for us as a team was the identification for a need for non-technical career skills training program. And this is also to meet member needs. Professional Development Council has proposed to the development of the non-technical career skills training program. And although they are leading the effort, they have taken support of the other IT councils and committees that are listed here. So the Public Agency Council, the Education Council, and different other committees as well. So the proposed non-technical career skills series have identified 5 different topics: the communication skills, administrative management, people management, project management, and self-awareness. So the committee is currently working on project management as their first module to pilot. And for our project, we are contributing to this effort by developing the framework for the content for self-awareness module. However, we've decided to expand the scope of this module to emotional intelligence, which will basically include self-awareness, self-management, and building relationships as the main building blocks of the pilot itself. So I would now like to call upon Emily to give us an overview of the proposed module.
Thanks, Anjana. So for our proposed emotional intelligence module, we will be focusing on 4 topics. We'll start with an emotional intelligence overview module, go into one that talks more about self-awareness. The third one would be focused on self-management, and the final one is based on building relationships. So in this module, or in these modules, we will be providing an overview of emotional intelligence using free resources provided by Myers-Briggs, as well as a DISC assessment. And as the deliverable of this project, the Leadership 101 team developed curriculums for each of these 4 videos, including learning objectives, virtual activities, and homework assignments. And we want to reiterate that we are not a duplicate of Leadership ITE. The goal of these trainings is to expose technical transportation professionals to these concepts that we learn within Leadership ITE, in hopes that this will help them to see the value of Leadership ITE and invest to be a future participant in the program. So for our business plan for this module, we will be offering a free certificate series. This program will be hosted on a virtual platform such as Zoom or Teams, and will be in the format of a live webinar with a lecture portion, followed by breakout group activities. So this is unlike what was proposed in the Professional Development Committee's non-technical series, in that they envisioned a recording style webinar, but we are doing this in the live format since this is a human skilled training, and that has to be done in a non-static way. So we are planning these around sort of a lunch and learn style with 4 consecutive trainings that are short and no more than an hour or so, to encourage a wider participation. So the goal of these shorter sessions is that it will be a lower barrier to entry and will hopefully have a higher participation rate. And also, hopefully by being exposed to this content, ITE's membership will understand why these skills are so important to their career and can serve as a funnel into the Leadership ITE program. So this program will be marketed through ITE committees and social media, and will be carried out by volunteers from the Leadership ITE Council. So we have 2 asks. One is for IBOD and one is for the Leadership ITE Council. So we are asking the IBOD board to support this program. This program will require significant effort from the Leadership ITE Council volunteers to develop the PowerPoint deck for this program using our outline and conduct the live program. So we know that the volunteers have limits to their time, and we understand that this that this will limit their time to support other efforts. But we are asking the Leadership ITE Council to take our framework that we've developed in our final deliverable to develop materials and deliver the content. We are also asking the IT staff for marketing support and getting the word out about the program and to help with the behind the scenes of delivering the content. So we believe the delivery of the program will help solidify ITE's reputation as the premier management skills training provider for the transportation industry and will increase enrollment into the LIGHT program, but this requires the support of the IBOD. So we expect the cost to be financial investment, staff investment, and volunteer investment. We estimate that to deliver this program, it will take approximately 8 hours of the ITE staff's time to manage the series and approximately 10 to 15 hours per module, about a week's worth of hours on the Leadership IT Council volunteers to develop the content and deliver the material live. We expect the benefits to be the interest and enrollment in Leadership ITE, employee retention, outreach, and awareness. And this is an overview of the expected costs and benefits, but we go more into depth in that in our final report.
Time.
In conclusion, this is in the interest of ITE because this program will serve as a funnel into the Leadership ITE program while providing dedicated resources to managers in our field. We understand that not everyone can get into LIGHT due to limited resources, but with this program, we hope more managers can improve their leadership skills to improve retention in our field. And what we are proposing through this emotional intelligence module is that through this program, no one will need to leave a job due to a bad manager like Anjana did. After all, wouldn't we all want to work for the boss that makes us feel confident, supported, and empowered? Thank you, and we'll take questions now.
Thanks. The first comment is to Lindsay, who I think had to step off, about this project be good content and ideas for the developing trend effort of the council leadership team working on workforce development. My first question is, do you have any thoughts on how this would be marketed so you are reaching the managers who might not know that they're bad managers?
We didn't quite get into that, but one of the things that we did talk about is engineers and planners like data. And so as we were thinking through what might be a successful marketing campaign for a program around emotional intelligence, when people may not think that they need emotional intelligence training, is to lead with more of the data. So talking about the number of people that have chosen to leave a job because of a bad experience with management, and really getting into how expensive it is to hire a new position versus retaining an employee. Sometimes you're investing, the data says that sometimes you're investing up to 1.5 times the salary of the position, particularly for technical positions. So really kind of highlighting like the opportunities for the business and using that data as a way to get people through the door versus focusing on the emotional intelligence piece, which may not be as interesting to this particular group.
Thanks. And again, if anybody has any questions to put in the chat, please feel free. Otherwise, I can just keep asking questions. In your conversations with other councils, did you start to identify people who you think would be good to present this material, or would it be kind of a reach out to volunteers who might be interested?
Yeah, I don't think we have identified any people in particular, but I think our thinking was to start with the Leadership ITE Council because people have been involved in this program and know the benefits and can see why this type of training would be important. So I think starting with people who have gone through Leadership ITE would be a good base of people to kind of reach out to initially to see if they'd be interested in participating in this webinar.
Great, thanks. And I think, Kathy, we still have another minute for questions, right? Or was that time at the end of the 20?
No, we actually have 2 more minutes.
Okay, great.
I have one, Sarah. So following up, do you think that there's going to be some of this content that's going to have to utilize people out, like, so Leadership ITE, we utilize Shelley Rowe as a facilitator. Fantastic. Hi, Shelley. But outside of that, you did mention using possibly some of the graduates of the program. Do you think there is going to have to be someone outside of the program or outside of ITE, outside of necessarily the industry, to teach these people skills, since that's not necessarily always housed?
So that's one of our recommendations as well, Anna Maria. We would like to present this as webinar skills, but definitely an involvement with others to facilitate through the conversation. I think if this can be promoted as an in-person series, at least to begin with, and then recorded sessions through webinar, that's a great way to move forward as well.
Great. And seeing no more questions, I'd like to thank the Leadership 101 team and move on to our final presentation, STEM Marketeers.
All right, here we go.
All right, all. Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Lambader, and I'm one of the members of STEM Marketeers. So to get started, I wanted to ask everyone a question here. I want to know right now if you are having problems or have recently had problems filling a role at your company, whether it's an entry level or maybe a couple years out of school. I can't see you right now, but I'm going to hope and assume, based on feedback from our own team, that there are some people nodding and raising their hands. And so this was an impact felt in our team. And so we decided to make our group project looking at the idea of filling the pipeline of people entering the transportation workforce. So one of our members today was not able to make it due to an emergency. So I'm going to try my hardest to be the storyteller of our group today. But this is his story. So he works in Florida, and one of his previous clients was a county TMC, and they were having problems filling TMC role or operators within the TMC. And so what he did with the county was transform the way that they recruit for those positions. So changing job roles from not necessarily needing the PE after your name, not necessarily needing a degree, but looking at people that go to 2-year tech schools or a trade school, or right even out of high school in some instances, but that have the experience and have the know-how to be a TMC operator. Which allowed that county to change how they recruit and change how they bring people into the transportation industry. So based on Brian's story, we started to do a little bit more research. And one of the things we found was a survey done by the Washington State, where they found that 36% of companies that are eligible to bid on design build projects currently aren't, because they don't have the capacity to take on any more work. So I just want you to think about that. A third of companies that could go after design build work in the state of Washington aren't, because they just don't simply have the capacity to do the job. Other data we found is that there is a workforce shortage. The group before us just talked about it a little bit. We found data as well in both the in all of the industrial, software, electrical, and civil engineer categories. There's workforce shortages, and it's not anything new. As you can see in this graph, it's been happening for quite some time, at least the past almost 10 years, and it's looks like it's projected to continue. There are more people retiring than we have people joining the transportation workforce. And this was the problem that our group was looking to have a solution for. So what is the solution? The solution is to create something or have a need to build up the pipeline of students that are studying engineering, whether it's through a trade school or entering the transportation workforce through what one might call a traditional manner like college. So my next question for you, because we're all about questions in this group. So my next question for you is, have you ever used one of the ITE STEM committee activities for any of the age groups that we offer? I'm hoping there's a couple hands or nods in the audience. And these are great tools, right? They're great opportunities for you to take an activity into a school or an event and show off part of the transportation industry. So what we are proposing, or how, is that we create new and engaging STEM activities, particularly at the high school level, so that we can introduce students that are closer to entering either a college or a trade school to transportation using the the new tech, the emerging tech that they're using, to do random things in their life, right? Like, how are we using AI? How are we using, drones and new tech, and using that tech that they might already be well interested in to show them that they have a path forward in the transportation industry. So why high school? Currently, if you look at the ITE STEM committee webpage, there are actually only 4 high school aged activities on the committee website. So clearly there is a need to create a couple more activities. So what we're proposing is a marketing campaign focused on getting high school aged activities to high schoolers. So we've prepared a marketing toolkit that has anything from graphics, reels, videos, as a way to take the toolkit, basically almost completed, and be able to run this marketing campaign to get new STEM activities, and also some testimonial videos as well from people that do this really cool work, so that we can share videos as well as have this bank of activities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ravli to talk a little bit more about the details of our toolkit.
Thank you, Hannah. So before I dive into some snips and screenshots of what the content itself looks like, I'm going to take a minute or just slightly over a minute here, play a quick reel here for everyone. All right, so that was just one reel that we created. We have, like Hannah mentioned earlier, we've got a couple more reels, graphics, images, and whatnot that we will be putting together into our marketing toolkit to share with the ITE STEM committee and ITE staff, because what we don't want to do with our toolkit is add more, well, there will be some effort needed on everyone's part, but we don't want to add an exorbitant amount of work to anyone's plate here in creating this campaign. So moving forward with content, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. There we go. So this is another testimonial video here we again, in the interest of time, we're going to continue on, but we will have testimonial videos from transportation professionals and not just a particular group of professionals. So whether that's engineers and whatnot, so that they can share experiences from their profession. We'll also have snaps like this where there's activities that have already occurred. So there's examples of what the outreach efforts can look like in order to draw, again, both areas of audiences. So that's both the students and then the professionals in our industry that we're trying to target with our efforts from the marketing campaign. And our deliverables, going back to that toolkit, are going to use examples like this, screenshots of some of that emerging tech that Hannah mentioned. And again, these are some of the lovely transportation professionals that we're going to tap into for the testimonials. So this is screenshots from some of those testimonial videos that we've got, where they spend time talking to us about what it is that drives them to going to work every day, working with within the field of transportation, doing what they do, with some of that cool, fun, hip, all the trendy words, insert all the trendy words here, that they do on a daily basis. That's not so much that run of the mill, that boring, quote unquote, boring traffic transportation work that historically used to be our profession, right? Because we got all the gadgets and all the tech and all the buzzwords now. We are part of the technology revolution now, or our profession is anyway. I don't know so much about me. And then going forward, at the very end of each of these reels or videos that we have created for social media posting, we do have a call for action so that our audience, whether it's the professionals that we're reaching out to share testimonial videos that we can use for content, or anyone that's wanting to submit activities, we have a call for action with information on where to submit those activities, so we know exactly what we're communicating exactly what they need to do in terms of next steps. And then moving forward, this is just, again, I know no one can read that text. This is just, again, a snapshot of what that marketing toolkit is going to have, which is how long the campaign needs to run for, when to post videos, what the ideal time is to get the most engagement on platforms like Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, so that we are engaging with the maximum amount of audience on those social media platforms. What are some of the hashtags that get us the maximum attention, that sort of a thing. And then this is, again, one example of what that draft language for social media looks like, with, again, an image, and then, like I mentioned, where to go for further information, and all of our end link will take them back to the ITE STEM webpage, because we do want that to be the final landing page for all communication, because we do want that to be housed within the ITE web page. And then with this, I am going to pass it off to Jenny on our team here to talk about the effect that it's going to have for ITE.
Thank you, Ravali, for reviewing our deliverables. Now you may be wondering what's needed to run the STEM marketing campaign, who needs to act, and what changes will result. The following slides outline what the effects will be on ITE resources and ITE overall. In terms of ITE resources, about 1 to 2 hours will be needed to plan and set up the campaign. About 30 minutes a week will be needed to run it, and we propose that the existing STEM committee is utilized to help finalize the materials and review the submissions. In terms of ITE overall, new activities for the STEM committee can be used at the international, district, section, or student chapter levels. And also there's the potential to recruit new members and to grow our membership. The one thing that to remember is that our project aims to build up the pipeline of students entering the transportation field. And yes, we acknowledge that there's a time commitment, but do remember that we will be adding to the pipeline and that the payoff is huge. And also, it will help fill Brian's empty chair from the original story that Hannah told. I would like to thank everyone on behalf of STEM Marketeers. But before we close, we would like to open it up for questions or recommendations.
Thank you, STEM Marketeers. I understand you worked with the STEM committee quite a bit. Did they come up with any questions or concerns or things they were looking for solutions for that you sort of addressed as part of this project?
I think initially when we had met with them, we had proposed 4 or 5 branches that we could take our efforts in. So they'd asked for us to focus on 1 or 2 streams. So that's how we landed on the marketing campaign being our path, because one of the other paths was also updating the STEM website so that it was a better landing page, so that we could draw more audience to it to create more of an engagement landing page there.
Yeah, and the feedback too, you know, since we had so many options, was that getting new and refreshing the activities that are available on the committee's website is a high priority for the committee. So that's, you know, that feedback plus kind of the fact that the website was already sort of on their sites to get updated is why we went with the new activities direction.
I also wanted to add that our focus initially was on K to 12 students. And after meeting with the STEM committee, we decided to focus on high school students for this campaign.
All right, I've got a question I'll read here. Your project is a marketing campaign to get new ideas and resources for STEM. Who decides if the material is appropriate for audiences? And is there any interaction with technical councils or committees?
Yeah, so I think we're proposing that this would be the STEM committee, so that they would review the submissions that would come in to the ITE website, and that they can format the activities. Obviously, we're not going to turn away activities if they aren't quite high school age appropriate. But since they, at least my current understanding of what the STEM committee does is they do occasionally put out the new activities and they help decide what that content looks like. So we thought that they would be the best resource to be the group that looks at the submissions as they're coming in to help both format them into that activity template, and then to also, you know, decide what works best as far as for an age group.
Great. And then we have a question from Karen Esplin. I've recently been made aware that many members don't know about the STEM committee and the online resources. How do you propose to make members aware of this campaign that they can use?
We're sort of hoping that you know, a lot of these materials were made to post on social media, right? The LinkedIn page, the Instagram page, and it's all going to be directed to the STEM committee's website. So it not only is it a place where you can submit, but it's also a place that all the current activities and all the current STEM resources are available. So by driving hopefully views and submissions to the committee's website, they're also going to see what the committee already offers, and hopefully that gets people interested, and, you know, maybe interested in joining the STEM committee too, which would be a great, you know, secondary positive from this, is that all the activity to the website gets people more involved in that in general as well.
And I will quickly add that realizing that there's cadence involved with the peak times to post on certain social media platforms and all of that, like factoring that in terms of like when to post that, providing that information to both ITE staff that manage these social media pages and to the STEM committee folks. We're hoping that that gives us one leg up that we didn't have before in getting ourselves into that platform that's available to market information. So
Great. And was there a in your deliverable, I don't think I heard it here. Was there a time frame, like in terms of time of the year, that y'all were thinking this campaign would be most successful?
We didn't suggest a time of year, but we did suggest a time length. So we recommended in the how-to documents anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So obviously not a very long push because we don't want to continue to tax resources when there's other things going on. Since it is, hopefully run through ITE social media, probably not in the early part of the summer or anything that would interfere with large international events. But maybe, beginning of school year and over that winter, time where things might be a little bit slower, might be a good time. There's students in school. You're looking for activities, so maybe you're thinking of new activities too. So didn't recommend a exact season, but we did recommend a time frame.
I wanted to add also, sorry if I could say something, that our toolkit deals with that. It recommends what are the best times to post based on the social media platform use, either the website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn.
Okay, like time of day post, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
STEM marketeers. That concludes all of our presentations, and I'd like to pass it to Steve for any closing remarks.
Thanks, Sarah, and thank you to all 5 groups. It's just wonderful to see all of the great progress that you made this year. I know that this is a very condensed program. You're putting a lot of time into this, in addition to your day jobs, but it's your commitment is obvious in the way you've gone about addressing all the different problems. I really appreciate some of the suggestions that I saw. Really appreciate some of the ideas that came through as you transition into graduating from the program. I hope that you continue to take some of the lessons that you've learned into your day jobs, into your leadership within ITE, into your leadership with other activities or organizations, because these are life skills that we're all gaining here. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I look forward to seeing all of you in Philadelphia at the graduation, and congratulations to our 11th class. Sarah?
Thank you, Steve. And yeah, I would like to echo your thanks to everyone. This is always a highlight of the program for me to see all the hard work that the teams have put in, and how thoughtful all of the projects have been, and how varied and diverse all of the topics are. I think we had some great conversations today. This is only the beginning. So, keep in mind when you see everybody at annual meeting that we will have an iBod lunch where you can continue the conversation. And then, you can always meet up with different councils and the leadership of different district sections and chapters at the annual meeting to kind of start putting these into action. So again, thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for attending, and excited to see everybody in Philly.